So I've never really disclosed much about my personal life to anyone. So I apologize if it seems a little uncouth. Now I realize everybody needs school, but what I'm trying to show is that I feel that I've learned way more about life and how to live it than I could ever learn sitting in a classroom. Oh, and my talk is experience versus education, in case you guys didn't get that. I have probably learned more about responsibility, sacrifice, hard work, respect, loyalty, courage, humility, dedication, and love than a lot of people will in a lifetime, let alone sitting in a classroom. Yeah, you got it. I feel that our education system has become more about something that you have to have just to make it somewhere in life. For lack of a better word, our education is a little twisted. Let me give you an example of how I view our education system. So imagine our education system as a table of judges, and the competitors are, we got a monkey and a fish. Those are the two that I used, monkey and a fish, which represents us, the monkey and the fish. That's us. And the competition of this, as you can see, is he's saying for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. The tree represents our high school, or high school in general. The point of this example, in this competition, compare a fish to a monkey, and it will live on the rest of its life believing it's stupid. Just like in life, there's always going to be people that are better at some things than others. But when it comes down to our education, we were all expected to climb the tree, but not everybody can. Now, oh yeah, you got it. That's the tree. Yeah. Now, when we graduate, there's going to be a lot of stupid fish out there, not knowing what the hell to do in life because their natural talents were wasted because our education system doesn't recognize the beauty of our natural talents, just the grade that we get on our next paper. Everything in life now is based off of your education, your job, social status, and how people view you. I may not be the best academically, but I sure as hell don't want my education to reflect who I am as a person. Now I've gotten a chance to show you how I view our education system. Let me show you a few examples as to why I believe experience is superior to education. As a kid, I had everything I could ever ask for. I had a place to call home, a family all together, and 2 parents who loved me. Then I got the normal kid tragedy, my parents split up. It sucks. But the next thing I know, I'm moving from place to place between family members, just for a place to stay the night sometimes, And my dad packed up his losses and headed out, and my mom found a new man, had better things to do than to worry about a son whose parents just took off on each other, leaving me in the middle wondering what the hell was going on. And the questions started, like why didn't dad take me with him when he left? Why does mom no longer care about me? I learned at a very young age that if anyone was going to take care of Cody, it was going to be Cody. Then I met my grandparents. I didn't know my grandparents until I turned about 10 or 11 years old. They lived on a farm. Can you imagine that? Me living on a farm? I was a cute little kid, had a cowboy hat, boots and everything. I could not begin to explain to you what this place meant to me. My grandfather, who I had never met before really, saw a troubled little boy with a lot of problems. And instead of writing me off and passing me on to be the next person's problem like everybody else, he came to me one morning outside and asked me to stay with them. I'll never be able to explain to anybody how much that still means to me. I finally found my heaven on earth. A place with no fighting, no arguing, and people who cared about me. To most of you who have grown up in homes like this will not understand where I'm coming from. But to me, this was alien. I was not used to having people who cared about me, who wanted to be a part of my life, who wanted to do something with me. Anywho, I learned more from my grandfather about what it takes to be a man than my father will ever be able to teach me in my entire life. But again, good things don't last long. One night, my grandfather wanted to go out hunting after I came home from school. I was 12 years old. He neglected to tell me he'd been drinking quite heavily. One thing led to another. He left me on the side of the highway, and he took off. After he left me, he ran his drunk ass into somebody's home, killing one person. The one person I looked up to, and he crossed that off. I was then blamed by my mother and my grandmother for what my grandfather did. Let me repeat, I was 12 years old, and I now have the death of somebody on my hands. What this did to me, I can never explain to anybody, so I won't. But I have been more worried about where I'm going to sleep the next night, where my next meal will come from, or who is going to be around me the next day than I have about my next homework assignment in a long time. So now, after this happened, I'm sent to live with my mother. Living here would be the downfall of my childhood. At this time, my mother couldn't care less. I had a stepfather who abused me, and a dad who wouldn't come and save me from this place like a dad's supposed to through the eyes of a child. But living here would also teach me a lot, like responsibility. At one point, my own mother, decided that she was going to quit feeding me and my little sister because we told her we'd rather stay with our dad than keep staying with her. So she wouldn't feed us since we didn't want to be there. So, for me and my little sister, I made our meals, I took care of her, I made sure she was fed, and if she didn't have enough, then I was going to be hungry because she was eating everything that I had. I was already a freaking parent by the age of 13. That's one hell of a responsibility, and I sure didn't learn it in history. When my stepdad abused me and I showed the cops the marks on my body, the result, they put me in a foster home for troubled teenagers because they thought I was lying. If high school is supposed to ready you for the future and help you to take care of yourself, then I feel like I damn near got that down. But now let's talk about more of the positive impacts on my life. When I got older, I had the whole take care of myself thing down. My mother was going through a very difficult time and needed her kids. So she finally did what I thought I would never even dream about. She apologized. What did I do? I looked this woman in the eyes, who's my mom, and I see a stranger. But I look her in the eyes, and I tell her I forgive her. Not only that, but I made sure that she knew I was going to be there for her whenever she needed me. Why would I do that? If I can't forgive her and do for her what she would never do for me, then I learned nothing. And I would be no better. I learned the power and the amazing feeling of forgiveness, and I'm pretty damn sure I'm not going to learn something as beautiful as that sitting in algebra. You see, as I've gotten older, I've learned to let go of the every man for himself attitude, and I've adopted a new perception on things. I've learned things like loyalty. Aside from my mother, my father was just never really around. He did eventually come back, and he is who I live with right now. My father, I would never want to talk bad about my parents, but for the sake of this talk. My father is a hermit, for lack of a better word. He's afraid of the world. He's lazy and he's selfish. He doesn't do anything but sit tucked away in his little apartment. He has never really been there when someone needs him. So one day I decided that I didn't want the world to view me like my father. So I made a point to whenever a family member or a friend needed help, I made sure that they knew I was going to be there. I was going to be the first person there. So from then on, anyone needed help, I was there. Anyone who ever wronged me, you better believe that if they need me, I'm going to be the first person to be there. And to me, that's loyalty on a level that most people can't even comprehend. And one thing's for sure, I wouldn't have learned it sitting in biology. I got so addicted to helping people, I decided I wanted to be a Marine. Everybody that I knew, my best friends and my family, told me that I couldn't do it. I could never pass a drug test. I was a very disturbed kid, I guess you could say. I had a big drug problem. Nobody thought I could pass a drug test. Nobody thought I could make it through the Marine Corps because I have a disease in my kneecaps that physically brings me down. So I got clean. I pushed through every test, every physical, mental test, and I made it. 2 weeks later, after I got sworn into the Marine Corps, I got a call saying that I couldn't be a Marine because I have to get some knee surgery. And that's a 3-year process before I can even think about going back to the Marine Corps. So I got kicked out. But I took it as a way to learn something from it. Because even though I didn't get to be what I always wanted to be. Everyone that I brought this idea up to told me that I wasn't going to be able to get to the Marines. No one told me I couldn't be a Marine. They told me I couldn't get there. I did. And let me tell you, if anyone ever tells you that getting into the Marines isn't a whole lot of hard work, responsibility, and dedication, they probably went to the Army. And I sure didn't learn that in PE. So I've learned a lot in my life, some good and some bad, but I've learned from it all, and as best as I could. And everyone who has been a part of my life, good or bad, I've loved every damn one of them. Whether they've wronged me or not, I wouldn't have had it any other way, because they're all a part of what makes me me, and I love who I am, and I sure as hell didn't learn it in school.